The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you for joining our webinar. Our programming will start in approximately 2 minutes. Thank you for joining our webinar. The programming will start in 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. We have a fabulous webinar for you today, and it's entitled Beyond Technical Accreditation, What Do Partners Really Want from Their Vendors? And so if we can move on to the next slide, we're going to cover 6 really important topics today. The first is partner life stage management. The second is partner planning and performance management. We're then going to cover partner demand generation, training, engagement, and collaboration. And we have two fabulous speakers for you this afternoon. The first is Gary Morris. Gary is the CEO founder of Successful Channels. Successful Channels very much focus on cloud-based CRM, PRM integration, covering really important issues like partner scorecards, business and marketing planning, and QBR tools. Gary's been involved in the channels for too many years for me to mention, and is noted as a real thinker on channel issues. Our second speaker is Cesar Castro. He's been with Salesforce for 4 years. He's responsible for the cloud community cloud product team. He's had over 15 years in strategy, innovation, futures, consulting, and design. His areas of focus are best practices for adoption and engagement, customer success, and very importantly, channel management. Cesar is also an adjunct professor at the University of San Francisco Business School, and he's a former research director at the Institute of the Future. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Gary, who's going to start the webinar. So Gary, over to you.
Thanks, Rod. It's a pleasure. The topic is Beyond Technical Accreditation, what do partners really want from their vendors? I think the headline from the topic today is, like most relationships, both sides of the party are looking for a committed relationship, a relationship where both parties want a true partnership. So what we're going to talk about is, what are the characteristics of a true partnership? What are the factors that shape that partnership? And what does everyone do to build a stronger partnership? So a true partnership is basically a mutual investment by each partner in that relationship. A business plan is an expression of that commitment. It's, here's what I'm going to do for you, and here's what I expect from you. So we find that a business plan based commitment is a nice symbol, or is a way of bonding that relationship. What partners look for is, they're looking for committed vendors with strong products that are easy to sell. And what vendors are looking for is partners that have market capabilities, market reach, and are in the position either today or in the future to generate their own demand, so they can extend their network. So the three topics I'm going to talk about is partner planning and performance management, partner life stage management, and partner demand generation, and how that relates to giving partners what they're really looking for from vendors. So what I'd like to do is start with the market factors that kind of shape what partnerships need to look like. I think most of you in this call should be familiar that the three main trends in the IT industry today are that business buyers are now making the majority of their decisions. Over 50% of technology decisions have moved out of the IT department and have moved into the functional areas: accounting, finance, human resources, marketing, sales, etc. Also, the majority of solutions are moving to the cloud, which is another big factor. And IT in this role is looking to redefine its role in decision making. So I want to start here because this has a big influence on what's expected of partners, and then therefore what do they need from vendors and distributors to help them be successful. So, I mean, to some extent, the partners got the short end of the stick. You know, vendors, all they have to do is to adapt to the needs of new buyers. And business buyers, they want what they want. They're looking for complete, easy to implement solutions. And distributors really need to work and stay relevant in helping these partners be successful. But partners have had the rug ripped out from under them. They have to transform major portions of their business. And what do I mean by this? With solutions moving to the cloud, from their traditional buyers moving from IT to business functions, they have to modify almost everything about their business. They have to modify service design, expertise, marketing, vertical focus, service delivery, technical capabilities, because their buyers are changing. The way they deliver their service is changing, and what's expected of them is changing. So I think the overall theme here is empathy for the partners in this committed relationship is key to success. So who are the partners selling to? They're selling to business buyers. Business buyers aren't looking for technical IT solutions like they were in the past. They're looking for business solutions, turnkey business solutions that are easy to implement, that have industry focus, and even micro vertical industries with functional expertise. So what's needed for partners? More now than ever, expertise has become the most valuable commodity of a partner. And they just can't do it all themselves. They have expertise, but they're looking for additional expertise from vendors, from distributors, to help them deliver what their business buyers are looking for. So for partners, right now, expertise means focus. It means specialization. It means depth on narrow areas, because that's what their business buyers are looking for. Business buyers are looking for depth of knowledge, bench strength in terms of their ability to not only help them, define their needs, but fully implement their needs in a functional industry focus. So as you can imagine, the traditional IT partners business has been yanked out from under them, and a lot of them scratching their heads, how did I wind up here? I need to be more consultative. I need to be more specialized. I need to focus on building more services as a business to be competitive. I need to focus on implementation. And to some extent, I call this prepackaged due diligence. You've got to help buyers figure out, well, what's the right solution for me to buy? So help them with their due diligence process. So in that context, with business buyers, moving from IT to functional areas, and solutions moving to the cloud, what do vendors need to do? Well, they can't just focus on, gee whiz, look at my wonderful technology. They have to focus on business solution focus. Beyond speed and feeds, what is the outcome focused module? So it's not about security features or networking. It's about business solutions. And beyond that, it's not just business solutions, but help partners build services around the products that they're building. So it's beyond just, when I'm building my product solution for my partners, I can't just say, look at my wonderful software or hardware or services. I've got to think it through from the partner's business model point of view and give them services. Help them build a profitability model that they can use with your service and become a resource for them, so they can become much more, they can build on their expertise by leveraging your expertise as a vendor. Okay. And so what I think where we are right now is we all kind of have to pull together and help partners become more effective, help them build their expertise, help them become much more micro vertical focus, help them build their services, help them with their whole range of service delivery. Now, partners that are going to look for vendors, they're going to help them do that. They're going to help them sell more profitable services. They're going to help them be more differentiated, be more focused. And so within a vendor, the CAMs play a critical role. The CAMs are helping, they're the key advocates for the partner. So the CAMs' job, they have to up their game. They have to build their expertise. They have to build their business model expertise to help advise their partners on how to build services and pricing and value-added offerings around the solutions that they're offering. And distributors can do the same thing. Distributors can serve as the same role as the vendors to build depth of expertise. Okay, so what I'd like to want to do is talk about what they're looking for. They're looking for CAMs specifically that understand the partner's business, that build joint partner business plans and help partners build a competitive advantage. This is not the traditional CAM. This is the new CAM that is really a total business advisor and help build marketing programs. And I would say in the past, CAMs have done some of this okay, but not all of it brilliantly. There's a whole different level of expectations for the channel account managers and how they measure, manage, and motivate their partners for success. So some tools to think about to arm those CAMs to be more effective with their partners are things like scorecards, capabilities and performance scorecards where they can instantly say, here's where you stand with our program, performance to plan, pipeline to target. here is a blueprint, a stoplight chart of where you stand on your capabilities, your vertical expertise, you as a partner, your vertical expertise, your technical expertise, your services delivery model, and other capabilities to help you penetrate, and then help them build action plans. They are truly need to be business advisors. In a business plan, it comes down to coming up with a joint investment plan and a joint set of goals, so that we're doing this effectively and based on that individual partner's priorities. The challenge for most organizations isn't the concept of doing this, but doing this at scale. How do we do this type of business planning beyond my top 10 to 20 partners across my whole ecosystem? So it's necessary to have much more scalable tools that guide your CAMs through a professional business planning, goal setting, performance management process. And it's the same with marketing planning. Many times marketing plans are developed on the back of a napkin, in an email, in a PowerPoint, in an Excel spreadsheet. But wouldn't it be great if there was a more guided, consistent processes to develop activities and tactics and simulate marketing outcomes and help your partners build revenue-producing, proven marketing programs on a more consistent and more time-efficient basis that doesn't require a ton of previous expertise? So here's just some examples. Wouldn't it be great to go to your partner and say, here's where you stand relative to our top performing partners. You're doing 55% of what our top performing partners are, and those are broken down into various categories and topics. So partners love this. They love the ability to see where they stand versus what's expected and versus where their peers, and then create custom action plans to improve their performance. So this is all about creating a roadmap for your partners to become more specialized, to become more relevant to business buyers, and providing resources to help them achieve that. The next question is a series of metrics. Every partner has different priorities. Some of them are focusing on new market penetration. Some of them are expanding, their existing markets, building, cross-sell opportunities, developing service expertise. So as a channel manager, I need to go into that partner relationship and say, here's a range of potential metrics. Which one of these seems to align with your business goals as a partner? And then together, defining that final set of metrics that work specifically for them. So what I'm saying here is programmatizing is good, but only to a point. In order to get relevant, deeper partner relationships and meet partners' needs, it's got to be specific to that individual partner's business plan requirements. What's important to them? Dashboards. CAMs spend way too much time hunting for information. So do partners. In fact, I can't tell you how many times I've heard from partners telling their vendors, I have no idea where I stand with your program. So that's something as vendors we got to figure out. We've got to provide dashboards that say, here's exactly where you stand, 24/7, performance to plan, backwards looking, pipeline to target, performance looking, forward looking, certifications, accreditations, all attributes of your program performance needs to be at their fingertips 24/7. So they're focusing not on pulling the data, they're focusing on what I'm going to do about it, how I'm going to focus from here forward. I'd mentioned earlier a marketing plan. Wouldn't it be great if there was a workflow process by quarter to help them define activities and tactics and simulate the outcomes so they can develop consistent expectations? If I do 2 events and 1 email campaign and 1 webinar, what's the expected outcome of that? And from a MDF approval point of view, having a consistent methodology so you can allocate this money equitably is equally important. So let's talk about partner life stage management and what are the appropriate metrics and activities to focus on at various stages. When you're looking at potential partners or partners, in the beginning stages, you're looking, are they a good fit? Do they have the expertise, the market coverage, the services requirements? Do they align with what the characteristics of more successful partners in our current ecosystem? Once we have achieved that, is to help establish some specific onboarding metrics. You know, there's specific things in terms of activation and enablement, sign up and contracting. I can't tell you how many times I've heard about CAMs spending so much time saying, well, this partner didn't get this MDF agreement and this services agreement, and they're chasing down partners getting agreements signed. So having a more systematic way of onboarding so partners are done, they're onboarded more quickly, more efficiently, and all of the important components are tracked. And then kind of working through each stage. If you think about every single partner in your ecosystem today, they're at various stages on this life stage. Certain are just developing their sales expertise. Some are in a kind of a more commitment mode where they're saying, you know what, I like this vendor, I'm going to start to invest and build marketing activities and then help them build their own ROI and backfill their pipeline, and as well as creating QBRs. So a way of assessing where a partner is on their life stage and then focusing on the appropriate activities to help them be more effective at that life stage. A couple of other things that we have found that partners today in particular are really interested in. These are just some examples. Micro focus, micro vertical or micro functional targeted areas. Security solutions for electronic medical records or security solutions for law practices, just as an example. Partners can't just be all things to all people because then they're nothing to no one. That partners can use expertise from vendors that you've gleaned from other partners and for your own expertise to help them become more targeted and more focused. And what they're also looking for, we've heard this over and over again, hey vendor, help me build services delivery models. What services can I build around the implementation of your products? And what's the staffing model? What's the pricing model? What's the implementation model? Prototype the services for the partners wrapped around your products, okay? Another thing is, why build a plan if you're not going to measure it? That is one of the biggest frustrations of partners. They go through this process of creating a plan with their partners to never see those again. Why? Because it's a pain in the neck to pull the numbers. Well, why not bring all that together for your CAMs and your partners so they can have meaningful QBRs? So wouldn't it be great if all in one place there was a summary of all of the key performance metrics, sales, pipeline, deal registrations, all of the things, the capabilities we want to work them on, the full marketing metrics, all delivered automatically. Okay, so that's the promise of a well-defined, a vendor that has their act together, that's focused on the partner success, is really figuring out how to deliver QBRs efficiently and effectively at scale. So overall, to summarize, what are partners looking for? They're looking for a committed relationship, that is a tangible expression of the partner's commitment. And oftentimes the CAM themselves is their tangible expression. It's the skills of that CAM, the ability of that CAM to understand that partner's needs and build a customized joint business plan with them together. Why are they not able to do that to date? They can't do that because they're incredibly inefficient. They're using Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints and kind of making it up on their own. What they need to use is efficient, workflow-driven tools so they can focus their time being a professional consultant with their partners and not having to pull data from multiple sources. They're looking for competitive products that are easy to sell. So I'm not only looking for a differentiating product, but that's a very real concern that they're saying, how tough is this going to be to sell, and how successful is my team going to be? They're looking for mutual investment. Okay, so not only the give-get. If you're willing to invest then I'm also willing to give some. QBRs is an expression of how committed that partner is to me as a partner. You care about me enough to take the time to pull together, here's exactly how you're doing relative to what we planned on and what's our corrective action? So tools to manage their performance is really an expression of their commitment, the vendor's commitment to the partner. The same thing with supporting demand generation with systematic tools and processes that will improve the success probability. So I would say one of the summary points is channel managers are one of the keys to giving partners what they're looking for. Who is successful channels? We provide 5-minute partner business planning, scorecarding, marketing planning, QBR tools to do all of the things that we have talked about much more efficiently, much more effectively, and ultimately to build more committed relationships with partners.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much for that. And before I hand over to Cesar, had a couple of people asking about questions. We'll be taking questions at the end of the session. And if you'd like to ask a question, if you could simply pop that into the question box on your control panel on the right-hand side. So without further ado, I'd love to hand over to Cesar Castro, and he's the Community Cloud Senior Director of Adoption and Engagement at Salesforce. So Cesar, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Gary, for that great presentation. I'm really happy to be here today. And I want to build on some of the things that Gary has talked about. He did a really nice job summarizing a lot of the business planning, the metrics, the measurement, all the things that are associated with the transactional side of relationships and partner relationships and the importance of that. I'm going to look a little bit on the side of how we can go deeper around enablement and training and collaboration. But I want to set the stage a little bit first before I jump into some of those topics. And that is, I want to describe for you a couple of things, a couple of important trends that we're seeing at Salesforce that I think are really important for all of our customers and really anyone out there doing business today in today's business environment. And that is, there's an increasing emphasis today on digital experiences. People have grown up digital today. Many people that are entering their workforce or have been in the workforce for some period of time are accustomed to those kinds of experiences. And for us, that really means things like personalization. So for us, we strive to create solutions that allow our customers to provide those personalized experiences, always connected, where it's very data-driven, integrated, up-to-date information that we're getting that our customers are able to provide for their customers and employees. And finally, always on, something that's always available and accessible in real time and even across any device. So for us, this idea of digital experiences is very important, and we think of it throughout the partner lifecycle. This is our view on the right of the slide, what we think of when we think of the partner lifecycle. So it's anything from recruiting and onboarding all the way through to the business side of partner relationships, deal registration, lead distribution, et cetera. So this is really important for us, and we build off of this to drive what we think of the important experiences our partners need. And as I mentioned already, part of this is due to the fact that so many people are entering the workforce today that are digital natives, that have been raised in a digital environment. And there's data that says that 75% of the channel will include millennials by 2024, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens even sooner than that. So there's a lot of people that have these types of expectations. So what do we do with that information? What do I do in my role even? I've had the ability to work with many of our largest customers around the world that are using our platform to manage their channel, to manage their partner relationships. And one of the things I like to emphasize to them, and I know, Gary, you touched on it in one of your slides, and that is that we need to focus on the experience of the partner. So when I go to a vendor, when I go to a large entity that's playing the role of vendor, I go to them and I say, hey, before you start building things and assembling things and deploying things on Salesforce, I want you to think about what is the experience you want to create for your partner, by role even, whether it's at the salesperson at the partner, whether it's the marketer at the partner, the head, the person that owns that entity, the finance person. What are those experiences that you want to create? And for us, that's hugely important. I think this is a very important starting point as you think about how you want to go and deliver these really unique experiences. So more information is available on this topic, and I think it's just something that I want to leave everyone with today, that this is really important for us, and we really emphasize that quite a bit. So as we turn to the topic of what are the things that we think are important beyond technical accreditation, these are the topics that Rod introduced at the beginning, and I'm going to walk you through each of these three areas, primarily from a Salesforce perspective, just to give you an idea of how we do it, But also, a lot of the content that I'm going to share has also been information and things that I've learned, as I said earlier, from working with many of our largest companies around the world, the largest customers that are managing a significant amount of their business through the channel. And the three areas I want to focus on today are enablement and training. So what are some things that you can do beyond sort of the standard or typical enablement and training that's out there? You know, a lot of our customers use learning management systems and things like that with their partners. I'm going to propose and share with you some other things that we're doing beyond things like that. Engagement, what are the ways in which you can drive higher engagement with your partners to build that trusted relationship that you want to have with them? And finally, collaboration. And collaboration actually for us doesn't necessarily mean Salesforce to, it doesn't mean that it's a one-to-one collaboration between a vendor and a partner. In our ecosystem, our partners actually are collaborating with each other as well, and I'll show you some examples of that. So let's talk about the first topic around enablement and training. And I want to set the stage a little bit by describing some research that we've done over the years. This is some research that we did a couple of years ago, where it really jumps out at you that there's a couple things. Number one, partners work with a very small number of vendors if you think about it, based on the research that we've done. On average, partners work with about 12 vendors. So that's not a significant number when they can possibly work with more. And on top of that, of those 12, it's the typical 80-20 rule, or maybe in this case, it's more like the 90-10 rule. 3 of those vendors drive a significant amount of partner revenue. So they're very selective about who they work with. They're placing huge bets on you as a vendor. So it's incumbent upon you to do the best you can to make that a successful relationship. And the first step in that relationship, and this is something also that Gary called out, is onboarding. And so our research tells us that 66% of partners, 2/3 of partners, expect to be onboarded in 60 days or less. Now, onboarding can mean lots of different things, but you can guess it's all around understanding your products and services, understanding how to work with you, understanding some of those measures for success that Gary talked about earlier. So this is a huge, important thing to be aware of as you look at how you're working with partners. Here's another research study that we commissioned last year in the state of sales that we do every year. And I just want to call out 2 interesting data points. 2 of the 4 highest tools that channel partners are looking for from vendors are access to technical materials, the ability to have technical materials in the first place, and also access to training. So again, there's a huge important emphasis that partners are placing on having access to information and learning. That does, in my opinion, go beyond the technical accreditation. If you think about, for many vendors out there, for many industries out there, you have a very complex set of products and services. It's hard to be current with those things. And so you've got to think about all the different ways in which you're going to provide that information to partners. And we certainly think about that as well. And I want to give you one example, just talking a little bit about what Salesforce does. We have a very vibrant and active partner community. And in this community, there's a whole variety of things that our partners are able to do, whether it's the more transactional side of deal registration and conducting business and things like that associated with selling on behalf of Salesforce. But there's also a huge group of partners out there that are independent software vendors, that are systems integrators, that are consultants. So within this community that we have, specifically for partners, and I'll share a link to it in a minute later, we focus on providing as much content as possible. And this is something that we recently launched, where what we're trying to do here is organize content in a way that gives a partner an easy way to consume and have access to information that's relevant to them. And we call them learning paths. And we're really going big on this particular topic. In fact, I'm going to share one with you at the end that you can have access to if you're interested in learning about channel management and Sales Cloud PRM. But this is important for us. So this is one example of what we do. And we do this for every business unit. So when you land in the partner community, there could be 10 or 15 different options, and you just can dive into each of the clouds, each of the business units, and you'll go through your own self-paced learning environment. I think this has become very successful and very valuable. Going beyond that, we do a lot of other things associated with enablement and training of partners. We do things like persona-based learning, which basically means if you're a developer versus a seller versus a marketer, we have specific persona-based content that's available for you. We conduct in-person boot camps. Here's the link to the partner community right here, the collaboration community. For those of you that may be familiar with Trailhead, we've invested heavily in Trailhead and will continue to invest heavily in Trailhead. It is a free access, free source of information and learning for anyone out there that wants to learn more about Salesforce, and we make that wholly available for free to anyone. You can even get your own Salesforce org in some of the trails. So one of the things that we've learned and what we've learned from customers, it's really there's no one-size-fits-all kind of strategy around enablement. I think it's important to look at it also from the point of view of the partner lens. And really, I think the last bullet, which transitions to the next topic, is investing in that relationship management. You really need to think about how are you going to build lasting relationships with partners in order to be successful long-term so that both of you are successful. And that's really the goal, right? It's for both vendor and partner to be successful. So let's talk a little bit about engagement. For us, engagement really, in my opinion, talks about how can we create a two-way conversation, because in many vendor-partner relationships, the type of engagement that occurs is sort of the vendor saying, here's this, here's that, consume this, take this training, here's a data sheet, et cetera. Very important, right? It's important for the vendor to take on that role. But what we do is we like to create a two-way conversation, and we do that in 4 different ways. These are 4 different examples I wanted to share with you today. One is, and I know many customers do this too, by the way, the first example is an advisory board. So we have an advisory board. I work in Community Cloud. To give you an example, in Community Cloud, we have a partner advisory board, and we conduct meetings throughout the year, in-person meetings. We put a lot of effort into organizing those, and those are important ways that we're establishing that two-way conversation. We have executives that are always participating in those advisory boards. And for example, I know customers that also have advisory boards with their partner, and they go one step further, and they'll take executives within their organization, and they'll assign executive sponsors to their top partners to make sure they sustain that ongoing relationship. Because advisory boards are very sort of, they occur at a given fixed time during the year, but how do you maintain that relationship? So I encourage those of you who haven't done that, maybe you can think of some form of that. Next is a feedback loop. As I mentioned earlier, we really want their feedback. And in fact, for us, to be honest, our partners know as much or more about the products than we do, because they're in it every day, they're implementing it every day. So they're a huge source of feedback. Many of our MVPs, which is a very select group of recognized global experts on Salesforce, many of them come from our partner community. Many of them are also on the customer side, but quite a few are from the partners. So we like that feedback loop. What I'm showing here is a little screenshot from our partner community where we have a group on roadmap, and we ask for input on roadmap. The next one I'm really excited about, and it's something that I think Salesforce has done very, very well over years, is this concept of co-creation, where we enable our partners. We give them access to our technology. Really, in fact, we do it with anyone, but with partners, we give them the ability to do even more and create pre-configured solutions for certain industries and use cases that we call bolt solutions. So we actually enable partners to build on our technology and give them the opportunity to have an offering of their own for a particular solution on, say, Community Cloud, for example. And then we also have the App Exchange, which is another open market for innovation that we encourage partners, consultants, software vendors to come in and submit products that can be run on Salesforce, very much like the App Store. The story goes that back when Mark Benioff thought about this way back in the day when Apple first came out with their App Store, and he and Steve Jobs are good friends, and he said to Steve, you can use the App Store name, we'll go ahead and call ours App Exchange. So it's very much the same thing, just like the App Store on Apple or in Android. And then, of course, the last thing, another form of engagement is we do quite a bit. We go out of the way to recognize partners. We have a very good, I think a very effective program where we have different partner tiers, performance levels, and things like that. Very important. I'm sure many vendors out there are doing the same thing, but we go very much out of our way to celebrate those successes. For example, at Dreamforce, we hold special events with partners where we give out awards and highlight all the successes that they've done, not just as a function of achieving a certain accreditation, but as a function of, wow, you created this incredible solution, and we want to recognize that breakthrough innovation and make sure that people are aware of what you're doing, because their success is our success. Now, lastly, I want to touch on the topic of collaboration, which I think goes a little bit beyond engagement, because collaboration really is much more about thinking about how we can do things at scale. And 1 second, my screen just went blank. Here we go. So in terms of collaboration, we have, as I mentioned earlier, our partner community. And for us, the partner community is really focused around this idea of shared purpose, that we're in this thing together. We want everyone to succeed, and we're here to help partners grow. And it's what's interesting, and this has been around for a while, but as I mentioned earlier, what's interesting is we do see a lot of partner-to-partner collaboration, because in some cases they're not competing. They may be in different geographies or they may have different areas of expertise. But there are ways in which this type of collaboration can occur. And I know for people who are launching partner relationships for the first time, they feel that that's not necessarily a top priority. But I do think that over time, you should think about ways in which your partners can collaborate. I challenge you to think about that. And I have those conversations with customers all the time who think that there's no possibility for that. And we certainly believe that that's definitely a possibility. I'll give you a more specific example. We have different forums and groups within the partner community. This is an example of our Community Cloud partner forum in the community. And in here, you can probably can't see it here in the screenshot. You'll get a copy of this presentation. You'll see examples of people that are coming in and asking and answering each other's questions. And the other nice thing about this is that it allows us to bring in our product teams and our other adoption experts that can come in and help as well. So it really opens up the door for not just the executive engagement at the advisory board level, but for the working level product managers and product teams to engage with our partners and provide feedback. And we also celebrate success. These are some pictures of partners of ours who have done some really incredible things. On the left, we have the wonderful Phil Weinmeister from 7 Summits, one of our top systems integrators, and he's published books, written blogs, gone on tour with us to publicize, the things that he's doing, and he's created a book for everyone's benefit. Here's a practical guide to Salesforce communities. And on the right, you see another team that won a demo jam at one of our events where they created an app that won an award for that particular topic that they were working on that day. So we really, really emphasize this idea of, how do we celebrate and highlight the fact that we've got a lot of experts out there that are available to you. So in closing, I just wanted to reemphasize, these are the things that we think are important, going beyond sort of the things that Gary talked about. As we were putting together this webinar, we wanted to make sure that we were complementary. I agree with all the things Gary says. I think those things are really important. And I just wanted to add sort of our perspective around enablement, around engagement, and around collaboration. So I'll leave you with a couple things. First of all, Salesforce is in the business of providing a product that helps you manage your channel, and it manages and can handle all the types of use cases, all the things that we've talked about across that partner journey, from recruiting, enablement, all the way through deal registration, market development, funds, lead distribution. So we have a product that can do all of that, and we're very proud of it and continuing to innovate. So it's something that we think is important, and it's really focused on the entire end-to-end partner journey. There are a couple of assets I want to leave you with. These are all not particularly marketing-driven assets. These are more things that I've been involved in that are all around best practices. That's my job. That's what I do every day. So it wouldn't be smart for me to sit here and tell you all about enablement without giving you something that you could learn on your own. So there's a couple things I want to share with you. One is the channel management best practices canvas. You can download it off of this link. And this is a compilation of best practices. It's not very Salesforce centric. It's more about how do you manage a channel? What do I think are the most important best practices for you to think about? And so I welcome you to download it and use this tool as you think about how you want to manage your channel. I mentioned Trailhead earlier. It is free and available to everyone. I actually wrote a Trailhead module specifically on strategies for managing your channel in your portal. So again, this is something that I want to make available to you. And then lastly, this is something we recently launched. This is a public URL, no login required. If you go to this site, you will have your own little journey. As I showed earlier, we did this for partners. Now we're doing it for customers. You'll have your own little journey that you can go on to learn, starting with what is channel management, all the way down to how does Salesforce see channel management? How do you set it up on our product? And then best practices for adoption and success using Sales Cloud PRM. So we're very vested in this holistic view of the partner experience. We're very vested in providing content and learning and enablement in all kinds of different ways as you can see. And I encourage you to check this out, and hopefully it'll give you some inspiration to think about what are ways that I could drive better collaboration, what are ways that I can engage better with my partners, and what are different approaches that I can have towards partner enablement and learning. With that, let me hand it back to Rod for any questions, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Cesar. So just a quick question to both of you. So Gary, if you'd like to sum up your presentation in a few words, what do you think are the key factors that people on the call should be focused on?
Thanks, Rod. I think just like any other relationship that we've all had experience with, it's commitment. You know, that they're looking for commitment. The best way to undermine a relationship with your partner is show lack of commitment, just like any other relationship that we've all had experience with. And the most tangible expression of your commitment is your channel manager. Making your channel managers a true business advocate, not just someone who follows up on, helps them close a couple deals and asks them about pipeline, but really becomes a true business advisor to them. You know, I would argue that your channel managers are the key, or one of the keys, to build deeper partnering relationships with your partners that they're more excited about.
Okay, and same question to you, Cesar. What would you think would be the 2 or 3 key things that people on the call should focus on?
I think the first one goes back to what I was just saying earlier a minute ago, and that is understanding the partner experience. And I think of the word empathy, like put yourself in the shoes of your partners. Think about what they have to go through. They've made some big bets to work with you, but practice that art of empathy and understand that, you know, they're making big decisions to work with you. So make sure that you're providing that solid end-to-end experience. I think the other one is around enablement and learning, as I described here, is provide a variety of options for them to learn, not just the technical accreditation, which is important, but also think about what are some ways in which they can have self-guided learning and on their own, you know, learn more and get to know more about what you're offering as a vendor. So I think those are the things that I would emphasize.
Okay. And then we have a couple of questions from the audience. So Gary, for you, someone's asked if you'd like to define what you mean by a micro vertical.
So micro vertical would be, let's say I'm dealing with healthcare, specifically, let's say operating room technology, you know, some more kind of the next level of expertise, or security, not just security generally, but security for financial services, or security for online retail. So what you know, now that business buyers are making decisions, those business buyers aren't just in these generic large verticals, they're in the micro vertical where they compete. And that's what they're looking for from their partners, that level of micro vertical expertise.
Okay. Another question for you, Gary. Someone really liked what you were saying about business plans, but said often the biggest challenge is changing the partner's views, because most partners think business plans are either irrelevant or only for the vendor. How do we set about changing their views?
Well, they're right. I mean, the value proposition for 98% of business plans are exactly, they're one way. It's from the partner to the vendor. The way you change that is you change the whole partner business planning process. You start with the partner and making sure that you deliver value. Now, this is something we know a lot about because this is what we do as a business. You provide a guided workflow process that makes it easy for the partner to choose meaningful goals for the partnership that make sense for them. That means you have sample values for goals, for strategies. You can build them potential forecasts in minutes, and then help them simulate the right action plan that supports those in minutes. You know, have, okay, oh, based on this goal, here's a set of recommended strategies and tactics and marketing activities and enablement tools that are directly aligned with that, so that they can do. And the other part of business planning that's not very satisfactory is once it's done, say, all right, I'll fill out the spreadsheet so I can get the money, as opposed to, we're going to fill out this mutual commitment plan and we're going to actually see it again, and we're going to measure and manage it, and we're both going to believe in it. We're going to run our businesses based on our mutual commitment to the same business plan. That's the difference between a one-way value proposition to a true two-way value proposition.
Super. And I've got a couple of questions for you, Cesar. The first is about advisory boards. And the question is, how do you get the right balance of people on the advisory board, and how do you keep it representative and fresh?
We manage our advisory boards through both our product management and our product marketing teams. We work closely with sales as well to help identify the right candidates, and we often try to think of ways in which we can bring in new members to the advisory board to participate. What we generally find is, as with most circumstances, and I've heard this from our customers as well, is that partners will kind of self-select. You know, the ones that really want to be active and engaged with you will demonstrate that by showing up, taking the time and showing up for the meetings. And so you want to keep rewarding those and think about, you know, ways in which you can add others, as either the topic might change, because you may not be able to cover all the set of topics you want to cover in a single meeting. So you might break it down by particular product areas or topics, and also be sure to reward those that are participating on a regular basis. I think that's really important.
Okay. And final question, question from one of the people on the call is, I have a limited budget. When it comes to training, what's more important, in-person or online training?
It's a good question. We've seen a mix of both work really well, but I think that if you've got a limited budget, I think that what I've seen work with a lot of our customers is to focus on the online training, but take advantage of tools where you can create a more live and virtual experience, like we're doing right now with webinars and things like that. And as your budget grows, you might be able to do more in person. By the way, one thing that we do too, might be good to help manage budget, is get some of the partners to chip in for some of those costs. So maybe by working with some of your partners, they might be willing to contribute to defray the costs of organizing these in-person meetings, and they can also host part of the day or an evening event, things like that, which, you know, again, we don't treat that as giving them any kind of unfair advantage, because we open that up to everyone. So there's ways in which partners might contribute and help you defray some of those costs going forward. But in the immediate sense, I do think that using digital tools, there's lots of good ones out there, and complementing that with like webinars or Q&As and things like that, I think is a really nice way to kick off an advisory program.
Fabulous. Gary, Cesar, thank you for a really, really informative webinar. The webinar will be posted online tomorrow, and copies of the presentation will be sent out to all of the attendees. So thank you everyone for attending, and I'm sure you'll join me in thanking Gary and Cesar for some really, really great insights. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.